barbecue. Hey everybody, and welcome to another video from Jack and Blues Barbecue. Today we're going to be making a beer can chicken. So I got myself here a 5.5 pound chicken. So we'll go ahead and spice this baby up and throw it out on the Masterbuilt 1050. We'll probably cook this at about 375 for between an hour, hour and a half. We'll put some really nice spices on the outside of this as well as in that can to let that can really work its magic. Beer can chicken is probably my favorite way to make a chicken on a grill or smoker. It stays really moist, imbues tons of flavor, and it always turns out great. You can't screw it up, so nice and easy. So for today's beer can chicken, we're gonna spice this up with two things. One is our Von Hansen's special spice. Now, I used this recently for the first time. You saw it in another video when I did the ribs. I was really impressed with this spice. So we're gonna use this again today on our chicken. To add to that spice, I will be using a spicy chili lime. This is just something that adds a nice citrus flavor. I like to add citrus when I do chicken. I think it's just a really good complementary flavor. So two of these combined, we'll see what happens. I'm really looking forward to that. Now to add to our spices, and this is something that I do when I make chicken because I really want that spice to set up nicely on the outside of the chicken and give a really good texture. We are going to use some brown sugar. So what I'm going to do first is mix together a spice blend. I'm going to do this in a bowl separate from the chicken, and I'm just going to kind of add a little bit of one, a little of another, and then a little bit of brown sugar, and I'm going to taste it. And then I'm just going to let that flavor profile kind of be my guide, and once I get it how I want it, we're going to go ahead and put it on the outside of the chicken. So I'm going to mix these up. Let's make a beer can chicken. To get started, we're going to take our chicken out of the bag and give it a rinse in some cold water. Once you've rinsed your chicken, we are going to pat it dry. Once we've got our chicken dry, we want to put this chicken the way we're going to want it to look on the smoker. And what I mean by that is we want to put the wings to the back. So you're going to want to make it look like this chicken is outside relaxing at the beach on a warm summer's day. So just take those wings and tuck them to the back, just like that. All right, the next step in the process is to get our beer can ready. So here we'll be using a fine Pilsner beer. Any cheap American domestic will work just fine. For us, we'll be using a fine Pilsner beer. And like my mother always taught me, if it says it on a can, you know it's true. So to get our fine Pilsner beer here ready, go ahead and give this a good chug. Now, if you accidentally finish the whole beer, don't worry, that's totally normal. Just crack another one and get it down so it's about halfway full. All right, so we drank half our beer. Now we want to open up this can. So I'm just going to use a can opener to make this opening a little bit bigger, giving more space for that moisture to come out and get into the chicken. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, that looks pretty good. All right, so I've got my spice blend mixed up. I ended up going with about 4 tablespoons of the Von Hansen special spice, 3 tablespoons of that spicy chili lime, and about 4 tablespoons of brown sugar. So mixed this up, gave it a taste. I think it's got just enough sweetness in there to balance out the saltiness of those other rubs, and you can still taste that chili lime flavor coming through. Now, when this cooks, that sugar is going to melt down. It's going to caramelize on the outside of the skin. It's going to give a really nice texture, and it's going to give up a little bit of its sweetness in the process. So I've got this sauce right where I want it. Now we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of our rub into this can. That ensures that our flavors are getting up inside of that chicken. Oh, chemistry happened. That ensures that our flavors are getting up inside of the middle of the chicken and enhancing that flavor. Should have known putting sugar into a beer that was gonna happen. There you go, guys. You can learn from my mistake. Okay, the other thing we're gonna put into this can is 2 tablespoons of butter. Because who doesn't want a little more butter in their chicken? Now that we've got our can ready to go, I'm gonna bring over my beer can chicken holder. One of the things that you do wanna make sure of is that you have a layer underneath the chicken so that as those drippings come off, we can use those and baste our chicken. That's what's gonna make that skin really moist and really crisp. Basting a chicken when it's on the smoker really gets you good skin when you're cooking at higher temperatures like we are today at 375. Alright, so our beer can is in, stable. Now we're gonna bring up our relaxing chicken, sitting at the beach. There we go. Baby's not going anywhere. Okay, so we dried off this chicken. We need some kind of moisture to get this chicken to take on that spice. So for that, we're gonna use a lemon. There's a trick my wife taught me. Roll the lemon so it loosens up, gets those juices ready to come out. And we're just gonna cut that in half. And I'm going to take this lemon, I'm going to rub half of it on the front, half of it on the back. And this is just to put some moisture back onto the skin with the flavor of the lemon. So I'm just kind of squeezing the lemon a little bit to be coaxing that moisture out of it. This will complement the chili lime spice with a little bit more citrus on there. All right, the chicken is nice and moist, ready to take our spice. So I'm just going to coat this, and anywhere you can, if there's a gap in the skin, work a little bit of that spice down in there. Now we do have access to the top for the cavity. I'm also going to make sure I can get some spice inside of that cavity as well. So I'm just going to keep working this chicken around to get her a good coat. Okay, so we've got our bird with a pretty good layer on there. Now at this point, what I would advise you to do is to put tin foil or something underneath the chicken if you don't have an apparatus like this, so that as all that grease and fat drips off the chicken, it catches it so that we can use it, because again, we're going to be basting the outside of this chicken. So what I have down here will do just that. And the nice thing about having this underneath it before you put the rub on the chicken is it'll actually catch all that extra rub. But I don't want that rub to burn while it's out on the grill. That sugar and those spices will burn and they'll start to give off an acrid flavor. So we're gonna put a little bit of canola oil down in the bottom of this. That canola oil is also gonna be part of our basting process, but its main purpose for right now is just so that those spices don't burn. So I'm just going to make sure that oil covers the whole base and can work those flavors together. Just give it a little mix with my hand here. So that'll protect those spices from burning. All right, at this point, we're gonna let those spices set up on the outside of the chicken, let them adhere to that skin to really give us that nice texture that we're trying to get. So give this chicken about 30 minutes to an hour for that process to take place. So throw it back in the fridge while that happens. And in the meantime, let's go fire up the smoker. All right, for today's smoke, we're gonna be using a hard lump charcoal. I got a 45 bag. This is lump charcoal of assorted hardwoods. So there's a little hickory in here, some oak. The brand on here is harder charcoal. It's just something that you can buy from Home Depot, something besides the royal oak for a lump charcoal. So let's get this baby fired up. All right, so we're gonna set our temp to 375. All right, so we've gotten the temp in our smoker to 375. So we're ready to put in our chicken. I am gonna use a probe on this one, and I'll show you guys where I'm gonna put it. Don't forget to take out your top grates. These chickens aren't short. All right, I'm placing this chicken so that if it's laying in its beach chair, it's facing inwards towards the back of the grill. The reason I want to do that is because I want to place this probe somewhere very close to a bone, and the place I want to do that specifically on this chicken is the thigh. So I placed it in there, I pressed it around a little bit, found that thigh bone. So I'm going to press this probe right next to that bone. The reason that the probe is next to the bone is because the bone cooks, the meat around the bone cooks a lot slower. It's difficult to get the meat around the bone up to the temperature that you want. The rest of the meat will cook quicker. However, we're going to be basting this, and we've got the beer can inside there, so it's getting moisture from the outside and from the inside. So I'm not worried about drying out the breasts on the top by overcooking the breast in order to get to the right temperature down by the thighs. So that's why I put the thermometer down by the thigh, right next to the bone. So I'm gonna come back in about 30 minutes and give it its first baste. We want to get that skin nice and crispy. Basting it is one of the keys to being able to do that. In case you can't tell, it is roasting out here. One thing I forgot to mention is we are going to let that temperature probe come up to an internal temperature of 165. When we hit 165 near the bone in the thigh, this whole chicken will be done. All right, so it's been about 30 minutes. Oh yeah, this is coming together really nice. So on the outside of this bird, I can just gently touch it without any of the sauce moving, without any of the rub moving. It's just set up and it's adhered to the skin. Now we want to baste this. So in order to baste this bird, I've got my wife's pink oven mitt that my mother gave her as a Christmas present. Now for me, I can slide out this drawer. If you didn't have this drawer, you could just take your spoon, just go right into it and right over the top. But I'm gonna separate out these juices, pull them aside. As the rub is adhering to the bottom, I'm just gonna stir it around because that's some delicious flavor that we want to impart back into the chicken. So I'm gonna loosen up everything that's hardened onto the bottom here. And I'm gonna move these juices into a separate container. So here I'm just using a ceramic bowl, something that I know can handle the heat of, say, a hot soup. I'm gonna pour those juices right into the bowl as best I can. So before I put them back on, I'm gonna slide my drawer back in. And I'm just gonna give this a quick stir, and I'm gonna work this in spoonfuls and try and drizzle every inch of the bird, paying particular attention to the parts that are on the very edge and the very top. Those are the parts that are going to get the driest. So I'm concerned about the breast, I'm concerned about the wings. So those are the parts I'm going to make sure I get coverage on. This process will keep the bird nice and moist, make that skin nice and crisp for us. Working the fat back on just keeps the flavor working. Be sure to get all parts of the bird and lower parts. I know it's trickling down, it's running down the bird. Just go ahead and work it every inch on the front and the back. Once you feel you've got a really good coat on there, I'm just going to take what's left in the bowl, pour right across the top, just to put them all right back in. Keep it working. Keep this bird nice and juicy. And we'll come back in about another 30 minutes and do this again. All right, so it's been about another 30 minutes and that color just keeps getting better on this chicken. So we're going to repeat the process again. We're going to pull out our drawer, transfer that fat over into another bowl, and give our chicken another baste with these fats and oils. Okay, so that's the last time we're going to baste this. Our internal temperature has gotten up to 128. We'll give it about 30 more minutes, but keep an eye on it. Again, we want to hit 165, where that temperature probe is in there touching the thigh bone. All right, guys, we're there. We hit an internal temp of 165. Let's take a look at this bird. Oh yeah. Beautiful color on there. A little bit of char up on the tops of the wings, but all that fat has liquefied, has been dripping off of the chicken, dripping down into our tray and coming back up in the form of delicious smoked flavor. Time to get this baby inside. We got her inside. Beautiful color. Beautiful color all the way around. So now we're gonna let this bird rest for about 10 or 15 minutes. Let those juices cool down inside. If you cut it at this point, it's gonna dry out. You're gonna lose all that delicious flavor that's inside of there. Yum. That's how you want it to look, guys. All right, so our bird's been resting for 15 minutes. We're ready to take it off the can. This is a difficult step and probably needs 2 people. So I've enlisted the help of my lovely assistant. All right, let's pull this baby off the can. This is the toughest part. Now you gotta remember there's still liquid in the bottom of this can. So gotta keep it upright. Perfect. Couldn't have planned that any better. All right. All right, she's looking beautiful. Nice and crispy skin on the outside. Now we're ready to butcher this baby. I'm wearing the gloves because it's still very hot. So when you're butchering a chicken, the first thing you want to do is to take off the thighs. So we'll just cut around the leg here and let that piece pull back, trying to preserve as much skin as possible on there. And you can see that thigh coming apart. Cut down into there, find that joint, and try and chop right through it to separate it out, just like that. So we'll do the same thing on the other side. find that joint and chop right through it. You'll know you hit it by the crunch. After you've got the thighs off, come down right down the middle and just go to the left or the right of center. And you'll find that center bone, be able to tell right where that is. And just work your knife to the side of that center bone. Try and get that whole juicy breast in one large piece. Just peel it back as it comes and work your way down through it. There's one. Don't worry if you leave a little meat on there, we can come back and get that. I'm not going to let that go to waste. And then come back and find where those wings are attached. Flip it over if you want to. And chop through that joint. And the wing will come right off. Things are getting slippery. This baby's juicy. And I know I left a lot of meat on here. Just come back and work this off after it's cooled down a little bit, and you can take off all those chunks. They're going to be super juicy and flavorful. That's the way that you want to take this chicken apart. Take it into those 6 big chunks. Legs and thigh, breasts, and the wings. Now we get to sample it. So this bird ended up taking closer to 2 hours. So I could have gone back and basted this one more time. But 2 hours is the cook time that you're looking for on this chicken. But my goodness, she's juicy. Look at that. So let's give her a taste. Mmm. Yum. Oh my goodness. Beer can chicken is the most tender chicken that I've ever made. It's the most tender chicken as far as I'm concerned. I've got a couple little taste testers down here on the floor waiting for those drops to drop. Absolutely amazing. The spice rub I used turned out really good. We've got some saltiness from that special spice coming through, and just a hint of that citrus, which is exactly what we wanted. Let me try a little piece of the skin here along with it. Oh, the flavor on that skin is amazing. Those hardwoods did what we wanted them to do. That oak and that hickory. And this is just an amazing chicken. So I'm gonna end this video right here. I can't wait any longer. I've got to eat this thing. Thank you guys for joining me on another video from Jack and Blues Barbecue. This one's been a blast. Try this at home, guys. It's so simple. You just put it out there, basted every 30 minutes, cooked it at 375, took us about 2 hours, put a hardwood on it. Absolutely incredible flavor. Try this at home. Let me know what you guys think of the recipe, and we'll see you guys next time on the next video with Jack and Blues Barbecue. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for checking out my video. For more content like this, look me up on YouTube at Jack and Blue Barbecue.